Hello, hello, Kristen here. Welcome to my weekly live Q&A on my channel, From Chronic Fatigue to Chronic Abundance. For those of you who are new to this channel, who have never done one of these live Q&As before, let me give you the scoop. So every week I hop on here and I will answer any and all of your questions having to do with living with the symptom of severe chronic fatigue, whatever the cause of your fatigue, whether you've been diagnosed with something like ME/CFS or fibromyalgia, or lupus, or whether you're still searching for a diagnosis, this advice is applicable to everyone living with the symptom of severe chronic fatigue. Awesome. So in addition to the recent live Q&As I've been hosting, I also have a whole library of 3 to 5 minute videos on very specific topics relating to life with severe chronic fatigue. I welcome you to go back and go back to the beginning of my channel and start checking those out for a good background of the healing mindset, what it is, why it's good for you, how to live it in your life. And then these Q&As here are so that you can ask questions and get real-time feedback from me and also from the people who will hop on in the chat here. All right. Hi, David. Go ahead and start typing your questions up, everybody. What I'll do is I will go through and answer them in the order that I receive them, unless we get Jack on today. Jack has been messaging me and has some specific questions, and I asked him if he'd be comfortable asking those questions, not in a private chat, but on the live Q&A, because I think everyone could benefit from hearing my answers to the questions that he has. So he does have a tight timeline today. So I said that I would answer his questions first today so that he can leave when he needs to, but still be present for those answers. So until then, though, it is open forum. So go ahead and get your questions in there, and I will go through everyone's questions today as long as they relate to life with severe chronic fatigue. Hello, Lisa. Yes, and every lovely person here today. You guys are all lovely people. David, I would love to hear your question. What is it? While I'm waiting for questions, I don't know. What am I going to talk about in the meantime? I'm always searching for it. That's why I like doing these Q&As, because I'm so much better at responding to a question than I am just like coming up with ideas of what you might be interested in hearing. And I'd rather you just tell me what you want to know and I'll talk about that. Oh, hi, Anna. I'm so glad you're here. I love everybody checking in at the beginning. That's so nice. Let's see. My health status has been pretty great lately. I'm not sleeping super, super awesome. And I know that because I got this handy dandy little ring here. It's pretty cool. It's called an Oura ring, O-U-R-A. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see there's little sensors inside there. It tracks your sleep in detail, so you get really good data on the quality of your sleep, so you can nerd out on how well you're sleeping and test different things and actually get data on how well things are working. If you're a big sleep nerd like I am, this is a really cool little tool, and it also does some activity tracking, although I doubt you guys would really gain much benefit from that at this point. O-U-R-A ring if you're interested in nerding out on your sleep stuff more. All right, cool. So David, like I mentioned, Jack popped in with a question. I'm going to get to his questions first today, but I will come back in the chat and definitely get to yours, David. All right. Awesome. Hi, Jack. Welcome. All right, Jack's question. What are the mental habits I had that drained me, that I got rid of and which removed symptoms? Do I have any tips on how to address mentally exhausting patterns in relationships and generally becoming more parasympathetic dominant? He knows it isn't the only piece of the puzzle, but how much do I think fatigue is attributed to mentally exhausting patterns of behavior? Okay, lots of questions there, which is what I expected, Jack, so perfect. Let me think about where to begin this one. I'm going to start with the end here. I think that our mental patterns do play a part in our fatigue because our mental patterns shape our thoughts and our thoughts shape our emotions, okay? And it's very clearly established that our emotions affect our energy. Our emotions can give us more energy, or they can demotivate us and take away our energy. Mentally exhausting patterns of behavior also influence our body because they influence the behaviors, they influence the actions we take, they influence the actions we choose not to take. And all of that has a toll on our physiology. So, I don't think it's the only reason that so many of us fall as ill as we do, but I think it does contribute to the fatigue. And I think even more, those exhausting mental patterns get in the way of healing because they rob us of our energy. They get us stuck in those heavy emotions and negative patterns of behavior that are counter to the healing process. So there are direct and indirect impacts of these mental patterns on our health and our healing. So that's why I'm such a big proponent of working on these things in yourself, because it may not be all you need to heal, but it is going to significantly improve your quality of life while you're healing. And it's going to make it easier for your body to respond to the treatment you're giving it, to begin healing faster once you're doing the right good things for yourself. The lighting in here today is terrible. I tell you what. I can't stop looking at it. My skin looks weird. All right, back on topic. All right, so back to the beginning of Jack's question. What are the mental habits that drained me that I later got rid of and removed symptoms? So I wouldn't say that getting rid of like mental habits or bad habits removed any symptoms for me. What they did is they helped alleviate them. They made some of the symptoms less severe, and removing those heavy mental blocks enabled me to be more motivated and optimistic, even while I was still severely ill. And those things are very, very important to maintain motivation on a long, difficult, undefined healing journey like this one. And those mental habits were, how do I summarize it? There were so many. At the core of it, I didn't like myself at all. In fact, I would say sometimes I hated myself. I hated who I was. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But hating myself led to a whole host of other negative behaviors and traits. Because I didn't like myself, I had this inherent belief that I was unworthy and undeserving of the life that I really wanted, and just of good things in general. Because I didn't like myself, I assumed that other people wouldn't like me. And I believed that in order to have relationships, whether it was, a boyfriend or friendships even, I believed that I would have to sacrifice and put in a lot of effort and make myself likable. So what that did is it led me to show up very inauthentically in my relationships, which meant that a lot of my relationships never got very deep and never became very strong, because I was never showing up as myself, because I believed my inherent self was unlikable. So I was always trying to be this likable person. And that's inherently draining, because I'm constantly having to act and think about, what does somebody want? How do I act like that? How do I try to become more like that? Like, it's this whole song and dance that's completely exhausting and took a ton of my time and energy away. And I do believe contributed somewhat to my health issues, because it also creates a lot of stress in the body. When you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you're constantly beating yourself up, you're constantly judging yourself, and you are constantly, I don't know, just like on a hamster wheel of never going anywhere because you're never good enough. It also led to perfectionist behaviors. At work, I always felt like I was never good enough, even though I was doing well and I was well above average and getting promoted and getting big raises and getting all of the recognition of my talents and abilities. I didn't take that to heart, and I believed that I was never good enough. So it caused me to overextend myself. It caused me to work too hard. It caused me a lot of stress. Even just the work that I was doing that my other peers were doing, stressed me and drained me more than it did them, because I was always so worried about the results. Instead of just focusing all of my energies on creating good results, I put a lot of energy into creating good results, and also wasted a ton of energy on worrying that things wouldn't be good enough, right? Like, I just wasted so much extra energy in my life, not liking myself and assuming I wasn't good enough at anything. And I believe that also contributed to my health issues, because when I did start getting ill, I immediately started to blame myself for what was going on. And and that blame obviously is very counterproductive. And what else was it? There was also the aspect of, oh yeah, there was this part of me that almost believed like I deserved it. Like, of course, I got really ill because I'm not good enough as a human being in general. So there was definitely a little sense of like, I've gotten what I deserved. I deserve to get ill because I'm not a good person, because I'm never good enough at what I do. That wasn't an everyday present type thought or emotion, but it was definitely there in the background. And when something really bad happens to you and you feel like you deserve it, you don't fight it as hard as you should. You don't take it as seriously as you need to, and you don't advocate for yourself and for getting help the way you need to. So there was like 6 months there where I just kept getting more and more ill. I kept having my symptoms dismissed. I kept being told everything was fine while I continued to develop the body of an 80-year-old woman when I was 25. Like, it was maddening. I just let it go. I saw the doctors, I trusted what they had to say, and I rolled over and just took whatever their diagnosis was, even when I knew it was wrong. And it wasn't until things got so bad that I was in danger of not being able to work anymore that I took it more seriously. But fundamentally, it's this I don't like myself, I hate myself mentality that contributed to it. There was also some addictive personality happening there. And I'm not going to go super deep into what I think addictive personalities really are, but suffice it to say that addictive personalities occur in people. Um, and this has been shown with like science and everything, that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is human connection. Addiction only happens in the absence of deep, real, lasting human connection. All right. And because I didn't like myself, and because I had such a hard time building a bunch of really deep, strong, long relationships, and because I never felt good enough, I always wanted to hide myself. I wanted to hide my problems. I wanted to hide what was really going on for me. Of course, I was experiencing a huge lack in human connection in my life. And that manifested with an addictive personality, kind of addicted to adrenaline, definitely an adrenaline junkie. It also manifested into an eating disorder. And that eating disorder especially was severely harmful to my body, massively, massively harmful. And by developing more human connection in my life, to others as well as to myself, that really gave me back a lot of energy and gave me back a lot more motivation to continue working on my own life. Gosh, I feel like I could go on and on, Jack, about the negative like mental thought patterns that I had before I got ill, that I believe contributed to my illness, contributed to how bad it got, and contributed to the duration of the illness. and the really cool part is, like, you don't need to work on every single aspect of this. What I've learned is that I didn't need to work on the eating disorder and well, how do I want to phrase this? I've never talked about this before, so I'm piecing it together as I go here. I guess fundamentally what I want to say is that the more I worked on not hating myself, and later on, the more I worked on liking myself, the better all of this other stuff got. It got a lot easier to develop better thought patterns in my daily life when I just cared about myself, right? because the way we treat ourselves is a reflection of the way we think about ourselves and the things we believe about ourselves. And when we start believing good things and start thinking good things about ourselves, it just naturally shows up in our actions, because our actions are entirely driven by what's happening internally, mentally, and emotionally. So if you're also feeling in a place where you don't like yourself, or maybe you hate yourself like I did, you're not going to go straight into loving yourself overnight. It doesn't work that way. Human relationships interpersonally don't work that way. And you've got to develop a healthier relationship internally with your own inner world, with your own inner self. And that doesn't happen overnight either. You've got to work on the phases of like, okay, if I hate myself, I've got to just not hate myself. All right. That would be a milestone, to just not hate myself. And then once I don't hate myself, then I want to learn to like myself, or parts of myself. All right. Once I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of liking myself, then we want to get into like, okay, now how do I love myself? How do I make my life really amazing through self-love? And I'm finally working on that last stage of things. So, you don't have to go from hating yourself to loving yourself completely to experience any benefits on your healing journey. Just hating yourself less, maybe liking yourself a little bit, is going to create really big positive impacts in your life that you're going to feel even while you're still on this healing journey. Okay, I've seen a lot of stuff happening in the chat here, so I'm going to check in with the chat before I continue with Jack's questions, because I know he's got to run here soon. Let's see. All right, Lisa K. Being sick on top of being sick is the worst. You have to remind yourself that you've made it through many other illnesses, and you'll probably make it through this one as well. Yes. Oh, I see. That's in response to David's question, which I will get back to. Okay. Jack comments, some people who you've met who have gotten better have told you that you need to believe in getting better and that it already happened while it still hasn't. Okay, so you're saying that some people have said that you need to believe in getting better, and you need to believe that it's already happened, even if you're not experiencing it. I wouldn't agree with that. I think you need to believe in the possibility of getting better, but even more than that, I think you need to believe in yourself. I'm pointing at you, look at that. I think each of you need to believe that you can find what you need, that you can lead yourself on this journey. All right. Like if you have a team of explorers going with you, on this uncharted territory of healing your body, you get to pick who your team is, who's on your team. You get to hire and fire along the way as necessary to make sure you have the right people to help you get to where you need to go. Because if you're trying to, make it from one side of the US to the other, 300-400 years ago, when it was still all wooded and wild, you can't do everything. You can't get there alone. You need a team of people. You need someone who's great at hunting. You need someone who's great at navigating the stars and using compasses. You're going to need someone who knows how to mend socks and sew clothes along the way, because you can't just go buy new clothes. You just need to utilize what you have on you. You need someone who's good at making weapons and knives. You need someone who knows how to cook food every day. You need all these different people to do this expedition that no one's ever done before. Start looking at your healing journey like that, and look at yourself as the leader. Look at yourself as the one who calls the shots. You don't need to do everything, but you do need to be willing to follow the advice of the people you've brought on your team. And that can be doctors, licensed medical doctors. That can be online health practitioners who may not have medical degrees, but have specialty and things that you need help with. They could be health coaches. They could be your friends and family. And it's up to you to know where you're going, where you're trying to get to, and to rally everyone to your cause and be the decision maker in your health, even if you have a team of people around you giving you input. So I would say more important than believing that you're already better, which honestly sounds like delusion to me. I would believe in the possibility of healing, and I would believe in yourself as being able to lead the journey to health. Let's see. Yes. Let's see. Okay, Jack, with with that said, how do you find the balance between having hope and also accepting what's going on, as resistance is also very draining? So here's the thing, Jack. I don't think you need to have a balance between having hope and accepting what's going on. I think you can have 100% of both. I think, in fact, hope really only comes into play when you're completely honest with yourself about the reality of a situation. If, you know, we as humans have a tendency to minimize bad situations. We don't actually want to acknowledge how bad things are. We don't want to acknowledge all of the bad things that are going on around us. But it's once we do actually connect with reality deeply in terms of the reality of our situation that hope actually kicks in, because then we know exactly what we're being hopeful about, and we know the odds that we're working against, and we know the challenges that we have to overcome. It's yeah, I wouldn't say it's balance. I would say it's more about developing the courage, the bravery, and the willingness to look your situation in the eye and say, I see you. I see all of you. I see how bad this is. And learn through the healing mindset to see that, feel all the emotions that come up. I mean, there's a ton of negative emotions that come up around that. Of course, you're going to feel sadness and despair and frustration, and maybe you'll start thinking how unfair this is. Maybe you'll start feeling angry, okay? Maybe you'll start grieving the life that you've lost. All of that is completely valid and healthy to feel. What we need to do is learn how to feel those things, accept our situation, feel all the emotions that come up, and then learn to acknowledge them, but not dwell. Not push them to the side and pretend they aren't there. Allow them to exist without consuming all of our focus. We want to be able to choose to focus on those lighter emotions in our life, even when the heavy ones are still present. And when you do that, that's where the motivation and the hope come into play. Yeah, resistance is very draining, Jack, and the healing mindset is actually about eliminating resistance, about not resisting anything truthful in your life, right? Not resisting anything that's based in reality, and fully embracing, accepting everything that's true. And the more we do that, the less energy we waste on resistance. Okay, Jack says he had an insight last night. Oftentimes you have two contradictory thoughts at the same time. Yes, that's a great observation, okay? And it's a good sign that you're beginning to have these observations of your inner world. Those are very, very important. You're constantly second guessing every thought, and it made you think that no wonder your synapses are frazzled because you're sending two signals at the same time, if it makes sense. It makes complete sense. And it's a fantastic thing to be aware of, because what it means is that you're out of alignment with yourself, all right? If parts of you are warring, it absolutely creates a feeling of instability. It, it means that you're wasting a lot of energy trying to incorporate two sides of yourself. And it usually means that there is we'll say like the unconscious, reactive, emotional side of you is at odds with your ego. And our ego is our conscious mind. And biologically speaking, our our unconscious feeling mind and our egos are actually in different places and have evolved at very different times. Ego mind evolved much later than the unconscious reactionary emotion mind. And what that means for us is that, yeah, we can feel like we're having conflicts, but only if we're resisting parts of reality. Once we lean hard into being brave enough to accept the truth about our situations and accepting and facing the truth of everything in our world and our lives, that's when those minds come into agreement, okay? It's that resistance that creates division, because the unconscious mind, the reactive emotional mind, can't resist. Resistance does not play a part in that, because whenever we see something, we feel something, we hear something, it first gets processed through that unconscious mind, right? Our bodies unconsciously process all of our senses and scenarios that we go through first. All right. And this is just pure biology I'm talking about at this point. And those sensations are then reduced to specific emotions and also physical sensations in the body. And that is what the conscious mind then reads and interprets. Okay. And it's the conscious mind that is either choosing to resist something or to accept it as truth. And when the conscious mind is resisting the truth of the physical body, is when we get that conflict, right? So this is a beautiful sign that you're seeing this, and you're seeing how exhausting it is to have that conflict. And I think you've already, either consciously or subconsciously, made the connection between the resistance and the conflict, because they are there. And acceptance of all truth is the way to unify those voices in your head. I don't want to call them voices in your head, but you know what I'm saying. This is kind of like hitting all of the big major points I talk about in this channel, Jack, and you're getting me to summarize it all succinctly and quickly here. So I'm kind of wondering what some of the regulars are thinking about this. Is it useful to get a quick summary like this? Is it adding new layers of understanding, or is this too summarized? Am I not getting enough information through to make this meaningful for you? I want to hear from you. Let's see. All right. Okay, Jack says, last question, then I'll go back to the top of the chat and work my way through everything else. How did I let go of CFS as a facet of my identity? That's such a big question. He says, I think when you've identified with something for so long, letting it go for your ego is scary. Jack, it absolutely is. And I will say, I never identified with my health issues. Personally speaking, thank goodness I never identified with that, because I know it's a really, really hard thing to go through. And I think the only reason I didn't identify with it is because relatively early on in my first health crisis, I would say it was, oh gosh, I guess it was close to 2 years in. From when I began getting ill to when I finally had the epiphany, it was 2 years. I was out of work at the time, couldn't work. I was working with an online health coach who had healed herself from 12 different autoimmune disorders, CFS, lupus, like you name it, all these things. And I went to her one day and I said, look, I don't know who I am anymore. I'm struggling. I used to be a consultant, like a really good consultant. I used to be a CrossFitter. I used to be a great girlfriend. I used to be building a social life around me. Like I had this identity of who I was based on all these things that I did. And once I lost the ability to do things, I lost my identity. And I said, I don't know who I am. What do I do? What does this mean? And there's this big long pause. And she said, yes, Kristen, like you have been working on like all of these external things to heal yourself. You've been working on taking all the right supplements, treatments, blood work, finding the right practitioners. Those are important. But she says, there's also some inner work to do. And this was a very profound moment for me to finally understand how important the inner work is. Because when I felt like I had no identity, I felt lost and unstable. And that's when suicidal thoughts start to creep in, because we don't have a grip on reality. We don't feel like we have a place if we don't know who we are. So that inner work helped me identify with the fact that I am not what I do. I definitely am not my illness. I am not things that happen to me. There is a part of me that continues to persist in spite of what I can and cannot do, in spite of what I choose or choose not to do. I can choose to do anything or to do nothing. And yet there's a part of me that continues to exist and persist. And that is the part of me that I learned to identify with, because that is the true me, and the sustainable me is the part of me that is love and is worthy of love just for being, not because of what I do or don't do or the value I provide, but just because I am. And each of us has that part inside of us that we can learn to identify with. So for me, it was really, I don't have a repeatable process to help you with your identity crisis. All I can say is that by looking inward and choosing to stop placing so much importance on what I do and placing more importance on who that observer, that internal observer is, that force within me that continues to exist and continues to feel motivated, continues to want to hold on to hope and to hold on to life. By choosing to identify it with that, it was just a process of months and years of returning to that choice to identify with that part of me until it became habit. Not sexy, not glamorous, not something anyone can package and sell, but that's what worked for me. Repeated choice, a repeated practice day in and day out for months and years to choose to identify with that part of me and to value that part of me more than any other part. All right. No, Jack, it was not easy, but it's worthwhile, as most things are. Okay, Jack says this has been really powerful. You're going to watch it again to absorb as much as you can. You're welcome for being so candid and answering your questions. And yes, thank you everyone for understanding that Jack has a time constraint here and letting us get his questions in first. We're just at a half hour. We have a whole other half of the live stream left today. So I'll go back to the top of the chat and we will go through that. Okay, awesome. So glad you could hop on, Jack, and thanks for the questions. I think it was really powerful for you to let us hear my answers in this forum as opposed to just like one-on-one chat. I think we all get to benefit from sharing info. Awesome. Hope you are not late for your little get together. Bye, Jack. Okay, back to the top. David Graham. Whew, I am feeling the heat today. All right, how do I stop the fear? For example, your wee boy was unwell with the winter bug. Your anxiety, fear, OCD goes absolutely sky high. It's bad enough dealing with severe CFS, never mind like a winter virus on top. When you get ill from winter virus on top of normal CFS, it's hell on earth. So you have so much fear getting sick from a bug. Yeah, this is definitely, I think, a situation of it's normal and natural for you to feel afraid of getting a virus because it has such severe consequences for you. Like the consequences for you getting sick are much more intense than for a normal person who gets sick. It's uncomfortable for us no matter what, but for you, it's especially a problem. And you can feel that fear and acknowledge that fear, but instead of like dwelling in that fear, getting caught up in being afraid, say, okay, what am I most afraid of here, right? Okay, I am most afraid of crashing. Let's just say I'm guessing here. I'm most afraid of crashing because I get sick and my body can't handle it and I have to expend too much energy taking care of myself while I have a virus on top of having these other severe health issues, okay? And if you were to crash from that, like, it could take you days or weeks or months to recover to where you were pre-virus. So by being honest with ourselves about what we are most afraid of, we can get a handle on the fear, okay? Once we get super, super clear and specific about what we actually are afraid of, a realistic scenario that we're afraid of, then we can start to say, okay, how do I mitigate this? How do I prevent this from happening? And instead of focusing on the fear, focus on what you're going to do about it. Focus on how you're going to mitigate that risk. So focus on like, okay, I'm going to need to have hand sanitizer on me, or I'm going to need to wash my hands more often. Or I need to ask my partner to be the primary caregiver until, my son is over his cold. Or maybe you need to bring in extra help, ask, a friend or an aunt or a grandmother or somebody to come by. Can you get your kid a face mask? Maybe they won't like it. Maybe it won't be comfortable for them, but if you can get them to wear that could mitigate your exposure to the virus. Or maybe you wear a mask to mitigate your exposure to the virus, right? So I'm just throwing ideas out there. I'm just spitballing. But the real message here is to like see that fear and acknowledge it, and then really dive into it. Sit there and really feel that fear and ask yourself, what's really going on here? What scenario am I really most afraid of? Like, not just, okay, I'm afraid I'll get sick, but why are you so afraid of getting sick? Is it because you don't want to crash? Is it because of some other specific thing that happens when you get a virus on top of being this ill? And then put your energy into how to mitigate those real world scenarios instead of focusing on the fear, because you can. That would be my advice there. I don't feel like that's super detailed advice though, so if you have more questions around that, ask away. Yeah, okay, Lisa, yep, being sick on top of being sick is the worst. Yeah, you will make it through. You will make it through like the virus, the cold, or whatever happens, but it can kind of set you back on your other health journey. Let's see. You remind yourself that if something bad happens while sick, you have to see a doctor, then they will do whatever they can to help me. You will get the support you need if things really get that bad. And another one is to remember that you will heal faster when you are not stressed and anxious. Lisa, that is absolutely true. That is good advice. Hard to implement though. Just telling someone not to stress typically makes people stress more. Like, oh my gosh, especially if I'm like really worked up and someone tells me just to chill or just don't worry about it. Oh my God, my emotions go through the roof. I hate it when people do that to me. I need to know how to chill. Let's see. Oh, Lisa, I also thought I deserved to be ill and that it was my fault that my son has POTS and my other kids have symptoms, but not full-fledged sick. She hopes I don't ever get sick like her. Yeah, Lisa, I feel you. You don't deserve to be ill. You absolutely don't, woman. Period. And neither do your sons, obviously. And it is not your fault that they have this, okay? Like, even if, I don't even think POTS is genetic. I don't think I've seen anything anywhere about POTS being genetic. I think it's environmental. It sounds more like you and your sons have been in similar environmental situations that have influenced your susceptibility to some of these illnesses, you know? And when I say environmental influences, it could be something about the water you're drinking. It could be something about the air in your area. It could also be about exposure to unhealthy light, you know, light that's preventing your family from sleeping well at night, can influence our body's susceptibility to illness. I'm not saying this is what it is. I'm just showing you examples of environmental influences that families are all exposed to that can increase everyone's susceptibility to illness. Other environmental factors are emotional. You know, our emotional dynamics influence our body. When we're stuck in very heavy emotions and a lot of stress for a long period of time, it changes our physiology and changes our susceptibility to disease. It's very well established that people who experience more stress tend to become ill more often. They tend to live shorter lives as well. And that stress can come from, like, you know, there are families in the worst situations in the world where they are literally worried for their lives on a daily life on one extreme of that spectrum. And then stress can also come from our family and social dynamics. If you are someone who believes that you need to repress your emotions, that you're not supposed to express what's happening to you, if you're supposed to keep your anger to yourself, and you've never developed a healthy outlet for these emotions, that can actually be very physiologically stressful on the body. And that stress can also change your susceptibility to illness, okay? It doesn't have to be just like external obvious threats that are valid stress. Anything we experience emotionally that gets repressed or denied or minimized creates additional stress inside the body. So, you know, when families tend to go through things like that, I think the first place you want to look is, okay, maybe is there a genetic influence here? And if there is a genetic influence, is it a determining genetic influence? Is it something that says if you have this gene, you will have this problem? Or is it just just changing your susceptibility. For example, smoking, right? We know that smoking contributes to lung cancer, but when you look at the data and you look at the science that's been done, smoking does not cause lung cancer. If smoking caused lung cancer, every person who smoked would eventually get lung cancer after a long enough period of time, right? But they don't. There's actually a lot of people who smoke for a long time who don't develop lung cancer. And that's how we know that smoking doesn't cause it. It just happens to be a contributing factor. If you do smoke, you are like multiple times more likely to get lung cancer, okay? But also people who don't smoke get lung cancer. So there's something else going on. And those tend to be more environmental influences than genetic, even if genetic has a component. So I wouldn't sit here taking the blame for what your sons are going through at all. And I would instead start thinking about, how to create a more healthy, healing environment, a less stressful, externally and internally less stressful environment for you and for your son and your other kids. How can you take the whole family as a unit and get everyone into a better environment that's more promoting of health inside and outside? Big topic there. Anna, how to be patient. You found a doctor who is better than the previous because she does a lot more blood work. She does not get CFS 100%. She advised you to walk 30 minutes each day, which you will not do. Good for you, Anna. You know that that's not going to help you, and you have your boundary as the leader of that journey. You were saying, no, we are not doing that, even if that is the expert advice. Good for you. It is hard to be patient. It's sometimes we need to piece together the help that we need. It's very rare to be able to find one person as a medical professional who can do everything that we need. I would say most of us, myself included, need to see different people on different parts of our journey. And each of those people can play a crucial role in our health and healing, even if they aren't everything that we need. So it's really about, when you start feeling impatient and frustrated, start feeling into that frustration, like allow that emotion to exist in your body and start exploring it, saying, okay, what am I really frustrated about? What do I really want to happen here? And how do I funnel this frustration energy into what I need to help me heal, right? So like, okay, I'm frustrated. This doctor isn't everything I need, but let me focus on how grateful I am to have some answers. I have more blood work done. I have, severe deficiencies detected in my body, and now I can start addressing those, and I can start making some progress and improvements on my body while I'm here. I'm thankful for what this doctor can do. I'm going to keep searching for the person who's going to be able to help me a little bit more than this person has been able to, but I'm going to get everything I can out of this person I have with me right now, because they are so much better than what I've had before. So it's balance of being grateful for what is, like it's part of that acceptance, like accepting that, yeah, this isn't everything I want, but there's some really good parts about it, even if there are some crappy parts about it. And then also funneling that heavy frustration, impatient energy into what is going to help you. Man, I feel like I'm just talking a mile a minute today. Let's see. I'm wearing a nice little blazer. I had a nice little networking event this morning. I met some good people. Normally not this fancy. All right, chat questions. Let's see, Lisa. Yeah, Lisa's commiserating with Anna. It is hard to be patient, she says. She looks at everyone that tries to help as a piece of the puzzle and not the whole answer. Excuse me. For example, you've improved over the years, but still not recovered. Yep. And I'm glad you've gotten as good as you have, Lisa. Like, I know I'm happy for you that you've made the progress that you have, because no one wants you where you were. Like, everybody wants to see you better than where you were. All right, Anna does pacing with heart rate monitoring. That's great. She really only leaves her bed for food. You have a very supportive family and friends, and your mindset is also great, but your energy is still so low. Yep. So Anna, like, mindset isn't everything that we need to heal, but it does play a crucial role. And I can tell you right now that if you didn't have this mindset and the supportive friends and family, this stuff would be a lot harder for you. It doesn't make it completely easy and doesn't make it all happen overnight, but this stuff makes the difference for a lot of people between continuing on and choosing not to. Let me put it that way. So Anna, it means that there's still things that you need to find to help your body heal. You know, especially when we've been this ill for this long, our bodies are severely depleted or severely run down. There's something really off that needs to be fixed, right? And the journey for you right now, since you were like so rock solid on mindset and you have a great support system behind you, is continuously every day learning to overcome that impatience and learning to funnel more of your energy into healing than into dwelling on those negative emotions, because you still have a long journey ahead of you. Like I've talked about before, like my journey was insanely long. Getting ill, recovering completely, getting my life back for an entire year, relapsing completely, healing from that, relapsing completely, healing again. Like, even though I had the right mindset behind me after the first time I fell really ill, it was still a plodding journey of finding the right practitioners, getting the right blood work done, taking the right supplements, doing the right tests. I mean, so much work, but I had that energy and I had the motivation to keep going in spite of all of the relapses and all of the dismissive doctors and all of the doubt from family and friends. Like, the mindset is what kept me going through all of that, because it would have been easier to give up. All right, Lisa, your next step to add on to everything you've been doing to help yourself to see a chiropractor. She doesn't know if it'll recover her, but it's something to try and add to the helpful things until maybe you hit a tipping point. And Lisa, that's absolutely the right mindset to have with this stuff. Like, we're not looking for a magic bullet. If we're searching for a magic bullet, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment and we're setting ourselves up for energy loss, because it is draining to try to put all of our hope into one thing that's going to heal us. Because odds are we need way more than one thing. We're going to need multiple things. But each little thing we find that helps is a piece of the puzzle, like we said earlier. And I love how Lisa is going into this with the open mindset of like, all right, I found this thing. I've read about chiropractic work. I have an understanding of what it can do. I understand its limitations. I think it might be part of what I need to heal. I'm going to go try it and see what happens. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't. But the only way to know is to go try it out and to give it a real shot. And that is part of the healing mindset as well. That open mindset of, I want to find what works for me. And the only way to do that is to try a bunch of things. And some of that stuff I try isn't going to work, but it's okay because I tried and I learned something in the process. And if it doesn't work for me, I can say, all right, I know I can stop thinking about that. I know I can put it to bed. I can move on and look for the next thing. That's part of the journey too. As hard as it is to think about, you know, I know I felt this, where like you start thinking like, oh my God, how far in the future, how long am I going to have to continue doing this journey of trial and error and looking for what works and looking for practitioners and blood work and feeling crappy still? Like, oh my God, how long am I going to have to do this? And the answer is always, we don't know. We don't know how long it's going to take you to find everything that you need. For me, it took years. I mean, to put a number on it, I would say it was, oh goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 years, 7 years of health crisis, recovery, health crisis, recovery, health crisis, recovery, 7 years. That's a really, really long time to be working on this stuff and to relapse so much. I know other people have worked on it for a lot longer, but you can't focus on when you're going to get there. All you can do is focus on incremental progress, because that is the only short-term goal that is realistic when we have these poorly understood health issues, right? But here's the thing, like even those crazy agonizing 7 years of, am I just going to continue to get better and relapse forever? You know, what kind of life is that? Sticking through it was the only thing that was worth it. Because it's the only thing that's going to get you through to the other side. I mean, like what's it worth to you for that chance, for that opportunity to experience health again, all right? And that's how much patience and energy you're going to need to get through this journey, however long it takes. Because if you get to that point, you're going to look back and say, yeah, that was the craziest, hardest thing I've ever done, but it was worth it. Because without our health, we all know that we don't have much. Lisa, so she does not do coaching anymore. She got burned out on doing coaching because it's really, really, really hard to do online coaching for people with these health issues, because so many people with these health issues don't have money, they don't have finances, you can't make a good living because you can't find enough people who can afford your services. You're doing a ton of marketing, you're doing a lot of free calls, and you also have to give a lot of yourself emotionally when working with patients like this, because you have to be there with them in their crisis to help them through it. And she did it for several years, and just for her own health and for her own livelihood and enjoyment of life, she needed to find other employment. So she doesn't do it anymore, which is a shame because she was one of the good ones. Let's see, Anna, I can't wait for my new diet or supplements to work. Your polar watch still vibrates all the time, and even though you feel really great, you do not have more energy. It's cool. I mean, like, yeah, that's part of the process is waiting for things to work and knowing how much time you need to give things to see how well they work. You know, like for me, when I took iodine, that was an overnight improvement for me. It was amazing. I felt so good. But there are other things like I've had severely low fatty acid levels, severely low, like omega-3, omega-6, omega-9. And when I started supplementing with those, it took a while before I started to notice a difference. I think it took weeks before my fatty acid levels got to a point where I started noticing a difference in my energy on a daily basis. And that was managed with my doctor as well. So like he understood the timeline it takes for some supplements to start showing you improvements and results. So like hopefully you have an understanding of all right, you have your expectations set appropriately for how long you need to take these things before you can say, yes, this is working for me, or yes, it isn't. All right, Lisa said, great questions, Jack. I agree. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Anna, I don't expect to heal tomorrow, but you want to reach the next milestone so bad you can't wait. Anna, I love your hope. I love how much hope you have. Of course, you want to get there right away. And I believe that you can. I really, truly do believe that you can with the right persistence, which you're already displaying. I've never said this journey would be easy. I've never said it would be fun. What we're doing is we're making it more livable day to day, and we're keeping you motivated and keeping you moving in the right direction. Oh yeah, Nika says you will get there, Anna. I love that. Lisa, she had the worst husband for 20 years. Stress, chaos aren't even adequate to describe it. I'm so sorry to hear that. So you think that was a piece of the puzzle as to why family is susceptible to this illness? Oh, Lisa, you can't blame someone else's actions and make it your fault. I mean, you were doing the best that you could in that situation. And so were your sons. And, your husband's responsible for his actions and his words, whatever they were. You're not responsible for those. He is. He's the one. You know what? I'm going to stay away from that because I don't know enough. I don't want to make any assumptions. But Lisa, it's absolutely not your fault. to be in that situation. You were doing the best that you could, and especially if you had health issues back then, what were you going to do? Take your kids away from out of a stable home if you weren't able to adequately provide for them? That's a really hard situation where maybe you feel like there's an abusive situation at home, but also you don't feel like you could adequately care for them on your own. You have to choose between two bad situations in that case. And you cannot be faulted for that. I wouldn't fault you for that. I don't fault you for that personally. And the only thing you can do here now is instead of blaming yourself, focus on thinking about how to make life better for yourself and for your kids. Like moving forward, how do we make progress from today is going to be way more fruitful than spending too much time thinking about the past. We always want to learn lessons from the past and say, okay, what went wrong? How can I avoid that in the future? If it comes up next time, what am I going to do? That's great to do. And then we want to get on with our lives and begin focusing on the future again. Oh, hi, Bobby again. You're going to ask about patience. Good timing. Oh, hi, Roxy. You wanted to say that you've started a brain retraining program called the Gupta program, and you will keep us posted if you get results. I hope you do, Roxy. My fingers and my arms and everything are crossed for you. I hope this is something that you need. And if it works, we definitely would like to hear about it. So people can evaluate whether or not it might be a good fit for them as well. Let's see, Bobby, your journey has been so slow so far. You barely made any improvements and you're in a bit of a crash after Christmas. That's very common for people to crash during the holidays and New Year's because we feel like we should or need to push ourselves to interact with family and to do all of those holiday things. Or sometimes we want to push ourselves in order to hang out with our family and enjoy that time of year when it comes up. And then we spend January crashing and recovering from that. So, totally get it. Whether, it's something you did because you wanted to or something you did because you felt like you should push yourself. The fact of the matter is that you're here where you are now and showing yourself self-compassion for what happened and self-compassion for where you are today and acknowledging how much rest and love you need to give yourself to get out of this crash will help you. All right. Let's see, Roxy's already feeling a little bit of an improvement. That's cool. Anything that helps us is great, even if it's the placebo effect. If we're feeling better, we're feeling better. Placebo effect or no, like results are results. Or if this is just the first taste of bigger results for you to come, I hope so. Oh, let's see, Lisa's done Gupta. She's also done ANS Rewire and also DNRS. There's also a free book called Rational Approach to MECFS Recovery. That's interesting. Yeah, Lisa, totally share links to stuff like that. Go ahead. Let's see. All right, Roxy asked about ANS Rewire. Anika says it did not work for her. Hey, just because it didn't work for one person doesn't mean it won't work for you. It's the kind of, all of these treatments worked for somebody with this health issue, which is why they're out there, right? How do you know if they're going to work for you or not? The only way to know is to try it, all right? But we can't go trying everything. So we need to do a little bit of research and apply some rational thought as to whether or not we find this interesting. Do we feel like this is going to help us out? Can we commit to the work that it takes to actually try this out fully so we know if it works for us or not? And it's up to you to decide if this is something that you think is worth trying, whether or not it worked for somebody else, okay? That's why just because things worked for me, I don't necessarily share them here because they may not necessarily work for you. And also the opposite, things that didn't work for me may be amazing for you. We just don't know until we try things. Oh, Bobby even got a refund because it didn't work for her either. Yeah, Bobby says she knows people that it has worked for. Yeah, Roxy, I wouldn't let these reviews like make you feel better or worse about Gupta. Like you've committed to trying it and it's all about what it does for you. Doesn't matter what it did or didn't do for somebody else. All right, Bobby, what if you've been doing everything you can and you haven't really seen incremental progress? Been there. I mean, especially in my first health crisis. I mean, I was ill for quite a while before, about 2 years before I started seeing any progress. That's not entirely true. I guess I saw some progress when I found my iodine deficiency and started supplementing with that. But other than that, there wasn't much progress. What it means is that, yes, you've been doing everything you can, but it means that there are things out there that you maybe don't know about, or you haven't had the right doctor helping you to try. So I put a post about this in the Facebook group this week about blood work specifically. And it was talking about how when I was first ill, I had seen all these specialists, okay? And each specialist specialized in something different. I was getting around to different types of doctors. And each of them did all the blood work on me, their words, all the blood work. And each time they found nothing. So they said, "Oh, you're fine." I wasn't fine. Eventually, I found practitioners who did way more blood work than any of these doctors ever did on me, okay? And that was when I realized that when doctors say they've done all the blood work on you, what they really mean is they've done all the blood work that they were trained to do. And they're not trained to do everything at all right? They're trained on a very small set of the body to look at. So we need to interpret that when they say they've done all the blood work, it just means all the blood work they've been trained to do, and there's a ton out there that they haven't looked at yet. And we need to continue looking for the people who actually do tons and tons and tons of blood work, all right? My big illustration of this, of someone who does enough blood work, the doctor I see now, I've been seeing him for 4 years or something crazy. I still see him for ongoing maintenance because no other doctors will do as much blood work as he does. And I'm big into numbers and data and blood work now, just for like ongoing general health and maintenance. The very first time he ordered blood work for me, he gave me the full like new patient panel. I sat down, had my blood drawn, out of my arm, 33 vials of blood. Okay. I think there were a couple hundred tests being done. 33 vials of blood in one sitting. I don't know anyone who's ever come close to that. I don't know anyone who's ever had that much extensive blood work done in one sitting. I probably had more blood work done in that one sitting, more tests run in that one sitting, than the vast majority of people ever get done in their lifetimes in terms of number of things tested, okay? So we need to find these people who know these additional things to look for and who know how to interpret the lab results when they come back. And I'll tell you, of all these specialists I saw, none of them ever tested my iodine. I had an iodine deficiency. None of them ever tested my fatty acids, my omegas. I had severe omega deficiencies. None of them ever tested any of my amino acids. And I had some severe deficiencies in amino acids, right? So where was I going with that? So this idea of doing everything, like I know that feeling of like, I feel like I've done everything, but that perspective can shift when you find the right practitioner, the right doctor, the right online health coach, the right whoever, because they will start looking at things that no one else has before. And that's usually when answers start to pop up. So when you feel like you've done everything and you're not getting any better, the thing to focus on is, okay, instead of focusing on all the things that didn't work, you can reframe that in your mind as like, all right, I've learned all of these things and I've learned that all of these things are fine in me. I need to continue searching for what else is out there. I need to find the people who know what else to test in me and who know how to interpret those results and who know how to treat abnormalities in my blood work. Because that's the only path forward. Yeah. Oh, Lisa, if you shared the link and it didn't take, if the link is too long, it won't post. You need to have like, it doesn't have to be like super short, but if you have like some big, long, like tracking link, it's not going to take it in YouTube. It needs to be short. Let's see. DNRS helped Lisa with anxiety. ANS Rewire helped her with deeper ingrained issues, mental and physical things like standing up straight, not tensing muscles, and breathing right. And also helped her with negative thinking patterns. That sounds awesome. Helps you propel forward, still sick but not giving up, still improving. Gupta helped her let go and take the good and leave the bad. Very helpful mindset work right there. It's a cloud link. You can't shorten the link. Okay. Yeah, I think the only way to share links in YouTube is if they're short enough. So I guess we won't get that link today. All right, let's see. My laptop is close to dying and we're over an hour here and I've talked my face off today for you guys. I hope it was useful. I hope you get something out of it. In the description of this video, I have a link to a private closed Facebook group. Not just anyone can get in. And it is a place for us to connect more frequently than just on Thursdays. You can post questions in there. I post little stories and little snippets and things in there as I think of them during the week. And it's a place for us to just have more of this back and forth more often than just on Thursdays. And if you would like to help me out in any way, I would ask you to share my channel with somebody who could use it, or share a specific video with someone who could, you know, stand to hear the message, or just see the community that forms, somebody who would like to join in on the chat community that happens here on Thursdays. That would be super cool if you got other people involved in this. Other than that, oh, thank you, Roxy. Thank you, Lisa. I'll get called an angel twice. That's cute. I'm going to chalk it up to the white blazer today. Yeah, Bobby, love you guys. Until next week, I'm sending you so much love and so much health and big, big hugs. Big hugs. And all right, take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.